The Shadow Tomb of Alexandria, Secrets of the Forgotten Library. The ashes of knowledge. The city of Alexandria was once called the Jewel of the Mediterranean. Founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE, it quickly grew into one of the most powerful cities of the ancient world. But among all its wonders, the bustling harbor, the Pharos lighthouse, the palaces of King Sayuro, there was one monument that outshone them all, the Great Library of Alexandria. It was said to be the greatest collection of knowledge the ancient world had ever seen. Travelers, scholars, poets, and philosophers came from every corner of the earth to study there. Ships docking in Alexandria were searched, and any scrolls found aboard were copied for the Libraria's shelves. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, history, philosophia, every subject under the sun was gathered, translated, and preserved. Some called it humanity's first attempt to store all knowledge under one roof. To the people of that time, the library was not just a building. It was the beating heart of human civilization. But every heart can be broken. And the Libraria's story is one of tragedy. The fall of the Great Library. History tells us that the library was destroyed not once, but several times. The most famous account comes from 48 BCE, when Julius Caesar laid siege to Alexandria during a civil war. To stop enemy ships, Caesar ordered the harbor set ablaze. The fire spread into the city and reached the Libraria's warehouses, consuming thousands of scrolls. Other accounts speak of later destructions: the attack of Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century CE, the decree of Theophilus in the 4th century, and finally, the conquest of the city by the Arabs in the 7th century. Each wave of destruction chipped away at the library until nothing remained but ashes and rumor. Historians argue over which fire was the true end. Some claim Caesar's flames destroyed it all in one tragic night. Others believe the library survived longer, only to be crushed by centuries of neglect. The truth has been lost in time. But in Alexandria itself, another story survived. A whisper that not all the scrolls were burned. That before the flames reached the heart of the library, a group of scholars carried away the most dangerous texts not to save them for the world, but to hide them from it. The whisper of a tomb. The locals called it Qabr al-Zilla, the Shadow Tomb. According to legend, it lay somewhere beneath the foundations of the library. Not just a vault of scrolls, but a crypt built to contain writings considered too dangerous for ordinary men. Texts of forbidden astronomy that charted stars which do not exist. Manuals of medicine that spoke of life and death in ways that defied natural law. Rites of gods older than Egypt itself. The rumor persisted for centuries, passed down in quiet voices among priests, masons, and fishermen. To most, it was nothing more than a folktale. But for those who believed, the Shadow Tomb was more than myth. It was the real legacy of the library. And in the modern age, when archaeology rose as a science, a handful of explorers began to wonder, what if it was true? A discovery in dust in 1898, a French archaeologist named Épermille Lenoir was cataloging papyrus fragments purchased from a market in Cairo. Among them was a tattered scrap written in Greek and Demotic Egyptian. At first glance, it seemed no different from hundreds of other fragments. But one line caught his attention. It mentioned a oath books placed in darkness, under the house of wisdom, sealed by chains of bronze. Lenoir dismissed it at first as poetic language. But that phrase sealed by chains of bronze stayed with him. He knew of no Egyptian or Greek custom of using bronze chains in burials or vaults. It was unusual, out of place. He made notes, but the fragment was sold to a private collector, vanishing from academic records. Years later, his notes resurfaced, sparking debate among scholars. Some said it was proof of hidden archives beneath the library. Others claimed it was a forgery. But the whisper of the Shadow Tomb grew louder. The modern expedition fast forward to the present day. A small team of independent researchers, led by Dr. Nadia Karim, a historian of ancient texts, began piecing together scattered references to secret vaults beneath Alexandria. Old maps, forgotten letters from travelers, even stories passed down through local families. One detail appeared again and again: a passage beneath the Serapeum, the great temple of Serapis, which once stood close to the library. Though the temple itself was destroyed long ago, underground catacombs remained. Dr. Karim and her team believed the Shadow Tomb might be hidden there. And so, under the cover of a government-approved dig, they began exploring the Serapuma Euro's forgotten tunnels. What they found was stranger than anything they expected. Echoes in the dark. The catacombs were vast and winding, filled with dust and broken statues. Faded hieroglyphs lined the walls, mixed with Greek inscriptions. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became, as if pressing down on them. One of the team members, an engineer named Yusuf, noticed something unusual. Some of the stones in the floor were not like the other Euro, they were older, cut with a different technique. When they pried one loose, they discovered a narrow shaft leading downward. It was as if an entire level had been deliberately sealed off. The shaft was just wide enough for one person at a time. As they lowered a lantern, the flame flickered violently, then went out. The air rising from below was damp, cold, and carried the faint scent of burned papyrus. Karim whispered, they found it. The entrance to the Shadow Tomb. When they descended, they found themselves in a chamber unlike any other. The walls were plain, almost bare, except for one detail, a set of bronze chains embedded into the stone, stretching across a sealed doorway. The bronze was green with age, but still intact after nearly 2,000 years. Above the door, a single inscription in Greek read, Knowledge is death. The team stood in silence. It was one thing to chase a legend. Another to stand before it. Karim touched the chains with her gloved hand. Cold, heavy, real. This is it. She whispered. Shadow Tomb of Alexandria. But none of them yet understood what awaited them on the other side of that door. Breaking the seal, the team stood before the chained doorway, their lanterns flickering against the damp walls. The bronze links stretched across like ribs, cold and ancient, as if they had been placed not just to close the passage, but to restrain something behind it. Yusuf, the engineer, ran his hands along the links. These weren't T meant to keep intruders out. He muttered. They were meant to keep whatever s inside in. Drive. Nadia. Karim adjusted her glasses. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed unease. It means someone wanted this buried. And we about to undo their work. The others hesitated, but curiosity an obsession one. They began cutting at the corroded chains with saws and chisels. Sparks leapt in the dark. Each strike echoed through the chamber like a drumbeat. At last, with a groan like a dying animal, the final link snapped. The chains clattered to the floor. The door slowly creaked open, releasing a gust of stale, cold air that smelled of ash and age. Their lanterns dimmed, though the flames still burned. They had opened the Shadow Tomb. The first descent beyond the doorway was a narrow staircase spiraling downward. Its steps were worn, but not by many feet. Dust lay thick, unbroken for centuries. On the walls, faint carvings emerged, not Egyptian hieroglyphs but Greek letters and symbols. They twisted in unfamiliar patterns, more like incantations than text. One inscription stopped the group cold. Who enters unprepared will carry the curse into the light. Drive. Karim copied the words into her notebook, her hand trembling slightly. Warnings. They wanted us to turn back. But none of them did. The descent took them deeper than expected. Far below the catacombs, far below the known foundations of Alexandria. The air grew heavy, as if pressing against their lungs. One of the lanterns went out. Another sputtered. Keep moving. Karim whispered. Re too close to stop now. The chamber of ashes at the bottom of the staircase. They emerged into a wide chamber. The floor was blackened, coated in what looked like layers of soot. The walls bore murals painted in silver and red, though most had faded. In the center of the chamber stood an altar, and upon it ashes. The group gathered around. The ashes were not random they had been deliberately placed, formed into a mound. Mixed within were fragments of burned papyrus, blackened bones, and twisted bronze fittings. Yusuf knelt, examining the remains. The burned scrolls here. He said quietly. Omabe people, too. Drive. Karim swallowed hard. She ran her fingers along the altar's edge, where faint Greek text remained. With her lantern angled just right, the words became clear. Knowledge consumed by fire shall not rise again. But scattered across the floor, in cracks and corners, they found fragments that had not been fully burned. Scraps of papyrus with words still visible. Karim gathered them carefully. One phrase repeated again and again. A the map of stars that are not stars. A the hidden map that night, in the dim light of their camp, Karim spread the fragments on a cloth. Though incomplete, they formed something like a chart. Lines and dots arranged in a strange pattern. It looks like a star map. Said Omar, the linguist of the group. But these constellations they don't exist. Not in any sky we know. Karima eyes shone with excitement. What if this isn't a map of the heavens above but of something else? The thought chilled the group. A map not of stars, but perhaps of places beneath the earth or beyond human perception. More writing on the fragments hinted at directions. Follow the line of the drowned city. Seek the passage under the Leona shadow. They realized these were instructions. A path. A guide deeper into the tomb. The passage of echoes. The next day, they followed the instructions carved on the fragments. Behind the chamber of ashes, a narrow passage led onward. Its walls were lined with niches, each holding urns sealed with wax. As they passed, they heard faint whispers. At first, they thought it was air moving through cracks. But the voices grew clearer. Snatches of Greek words, moans, cries of pain. Oedo, you hear that? Whispered Layla, the youngest of the group. Doctor. Karim nodded slowly, her face pale. They re-echoes. Of those who died here. Or were of those who wrote what should not have been written. None of them dared break open an urn. The whispers grew louder the farther they went, until the sound filled their skulls. Only when they reached the end of the passage did the voices fade. There, another doorway awaited. But unlike the last, this one was sealed not with chains, but with carvings, rows of serpents intertwined, their eyes inlaid with bits of obsidian that glimmered like wet stone. Above the door, words were carved in Greek and Egyptian. Side by side, beyond this gate lies the burden of the gods. Turn back, or be devoured by your own seeking. The decision. The group stood in silence. Yusuf wiped sweat from his brow. This isn't archaeology anymore. This is something else. Omar shook his head. This is exactly what archaeology is. Digging into the unknown, no matter how dark. Lila's hands trembled. But what if they rewrite? What if we reopening something that should never be opened? Drive. Karim looked at them all, then at the door. Her voice was low, but firm. The Library of Alexandria was said to hold the wisdom of the world. If this tomb is real, then this what lies beyond is part of that legacy. Maybe the most important part. She raised her lantern high, casting long shadows across the carvings. Go forward. The unsealing. Together, they pushed against the heavy stone door. It resisted at first, as though the serpents carved upon it were alive, holding it shut. But inch by inch, it shifted. A rush of cold air blasted out, strong enough to extinguish one of the lanterns. The smell of dust and age filled their nostrils. Slowly, the gap widened. Beyond lay darkness so deep it seemed almost solid. Doctor. Karim stepped forward first, her lantern casting a trembling glow. The light revealed a vast chamber filled not with ashes, but with shelves. Rows upon rows of stone niches stacked high, each containing scrolls bound in bronze casings. The others gasped. It was not just a tomb. It was an archive. The forbidden library. The group moved slowly into the chamber, their lanterns throwing long shadows across the shelves. Hundreds perhaps thousands of scrolls rested in silence, preserved in bronze tubes. Some were inscribed with names: Heraclitus, Democritus, Hermes Trismegistus. Others bore no name at all, only symbols: spirals, serpents, suns eclipsed by moons. Karima's hands shook as she lifted one scroll from its niche. The bronze was cold, the seal intact. She brushed off centuries of dust and whispered, they found it. The forbidden heart of the library. The others looked around in awe, but unease not at them. The chamber was silent, too silent. No insects, no drip of water, not even the sound of their own breathing seemed real. It was as though the tomb itself were holding its breath. The final warning. At the far end of the chamber stood another altar. Upon it rested a single scroll, larger than the rest, bound in silver and sealed with wax marked by an unfamiliar sigil, a euro, a circle with 3 intersecting lines. Above it, carved deep into the stone, was an inscription in Greek, a euro othis, knowledge is not to be read. To break this seal is to break the world. A euro. The group stared in silence. And though none of them spoke it aloud, every one of them felt the same chilling truth. They had gone too far to turn back now. The forbidden manuscripts, the first scrolls, the bronze casings were heavier than expected. Dust clung to them like ash. Yusuf pried one open carefully, the wax seal snapping with a sound that echoed unnaturally loud in the chamber. Inside lay a scroll of papyrus, astonishingly well preserved. Its ink was dark, sharp, as if written only yesterday. Omar, the linguist, unrolled it slowly. His lips moved as he read. A euro ita euro sa euro ita euro s astronomy. A euro, he whispered. A euro, oh, but not like anything a euro they seen. It speaks of stars that rise and fall beneath the earth. Of a constellation called the serpent that devours itself. A euro, Layla frowned. A euro, stars beneath the earth. That doesn't a euro t make sense. A euro, Karima euro s face tightened. A euro, omabe, not to us. But to tame a euro, perhaps they saw things we can't. A euro t. A euro, as Omar read further, his hands trembled. A euro, oh, it says the serpenta euro s return will be heralded by a silver mist that fills the air, and when it coils around the moon, the world will forget the sun. A euro. The chamber grew colder. Their lantern flames flickered. The silver-sealed scroll. Karim moved to the altar at the far end, where the large scroll bound in silver sat waiting. The warning above it echoed in her mind, this knowledge is not to be read. But temptation gnawed at her. If this was truly the heart of the forbidden archive, then this scroll was the key. She ran her fingers across the seal. It was not wax alone, a euro, it was mixed with something metallic, glittering faintly. For a moment, her reflection shimmered across its surface, distorted and shifting. A euro, Odon, a euro t. A euro, Yusuf warned. A euro, oe euro, they seen enough. Take photographs, take records a euro, but don't a euro t break that seal. A euro. Karim hesitated. And then, with a deep breath, she pressed her thumb against the wax. The seal cracked. The sound reverberated through the chamber like thunder. The shelves seemed to tremble. Dust cascaded from the ceiling. And for the first time, the tomb seemed awake. The manuscript of shadows, the scroll inside, was unlike any other. Its papyrus shimmered faintly, as though dusted with powdered silver. The writing was dense, curling, a mixture of Greek and something older, something alien. Omar tried to read, but faltered. A euro ita euro sa euro ita euro s, not just Greek. These are symbols a euro they never seen before. They move a euro, his voice cracked. A euro, oh, I swear they a euro removing. A euro. The others leaned in. At first it looked like ink, but as they stared longer, the letters seemed to ripple, shift, reform into shapes. A euro, serpents coiling, moons eclipsing, stars collapsing. Layla staggered back, clutching her head. A euro ita euro s, not meant to be read. Ita euro s, meant to be seen. A euro. Karim whispered. A euro, oh, or felt. A euro. The first vision. The moment the scroll was fully unrolled, the lantern flames dimmed until only pale blue light illuminated the chamber. The group froze, their shadows stretching unnaturally long across the walls. Then came the vision. Silver mist rolled across the floor, seeping from the scroll itself. The air thickened. One by one, they saw flashes, a city swallowed by waves, its towers collapsing beneath a black moon. A figure wearing a crown of serpents, standing atop a mountain of skulls. Stars falling from the heavens like fire. The Library of Alexandria itself burning, not once but over and over, flames feeding on scrolls that screamed like living things. And then, a voice, a euro, low, endless, neither male nor female. A euro, O knowledge unsealed cannot be contained. The seekers are the sacrifice. A euro. The mist swirled violently. Their lanterns went out. The first loss. When light returned, Yusuf was gone. His lantern lay on the floor, the flame snuffed. His footprints trailed into the mist. A euro, but ended abruptly at bare stone. The group called his name, their voices shaking. No answer. Karim clutched the scroll, refusing to drop it. A euro, O Kana euro t, stop now. We euro they seen proof. We have to finish this. A euro. Lila, a euro s, eyes filled with tears. A euro, oe a euro s, gone, Nadia. Gone. We should leave before it takes us to. A euro but Omar a euro's face was pale with awe. A euro Odon a euro tuc. This a euro this is why the tomb was sealed. These are truths humanity was never meant to have. And yet a euro we have them now. A euro the chamber groaned, as if the very stone disapproved. The serpenta euro's mark they pressed deeper into the tomb, past more shelves of sealed scrolls. The farther they went, the stranger the symbols became. No longer Greek or Egyptian, but twisting glyphs that seemed alive. One wall bore a mural of a serpent coiled around a crescent moon. Its eyes were silver stones that glimmered faintly in their lantern light. As they passed, Layla swore the serpent blinked. Her scream tore through the silence. She pulled up her sleeve to reveal dark markings spreading across her skin a euro, lines like ink, curling into shapes that looked disturbingly like the symbols on the scroll. A euro oh they a euro re on me, a euro she cried. A euro eat a euro's inside me. A euro Kareem tried to calm her, but the marks pulsed, glowing faintly in the dim light. The chamber a euro's air grew heavy again, pressing against their chests. The voice returned, whispering in their ears, though none could say in what language. A euro oh one by one, the seekers shall be written. A euro the endless stairs at the rear of the archive, they found another staircase descending further. Its steps were narrow, uneven, as if carved in haste. Omar held his lantern high. A euro oh where does it end? A euro Karima euro's voice was grim. A euro oh wherever it des a euro that a euro's where they hid what they feared most. A euro they descended in silence, the sound of their breaths ragged, broken by the occasional sob from Layla. The walls grew damp. Water dripped in slow, steady beats, echoing like a heartbeat. And then they reached Ida Euro, the final door. It was not stone, but bronze, blackened with age. Strange runes covered its surface, none of which Omar could translate. At its center was a single handprint, pressed deep into the metal, as if someone long ago had burned their palm into it. Beneath the handprint, in faint, almost invisible Greek, were the words, A euro oir lies the burden of the gods. To open is to end. A euro the breaking point Karima euro's hands shook as she touched the door. The metal was warm. Layla backed away. A euro Owino. No more. Yusuf is gone, and a euro, look at me. A euro she raised her marked arm, the symbols crawling slowly toward her shoulder. A euro if we open that, none of us will leave alive. A euro Omar a euro's eyes burned with obsession. A euro oh but if we don't a euro t, then this was all for nothing. Don't a euro tuc. This isn't a euro t just history. This is power. Power buried by the ancients because they couldn't a euro t handle it. But maybe we can. A euro Kareem stood between them, torn. Her heart pounded with fear, but also with an intoxicating hunger. To be the one who rediscovered what was lost a euro to hold in her hands the true legacy of Alexandria a euro she pressed her palm against the bronze handprint. The metal shuddered beneath her touch. And slowly a euro the door began to open. He tomb awakens the final chamber the bronze door groaned open, releasing a breath of air that had been trapped for centuries. It carried the scent of salt and ash, sharp and unnatural. Their lanterns flickered violently, but the flames did not die. They stepped inside. The chamber was vast, circular, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood a massive sarcophagus, not of stone, but of black basalt veined with silver. Heavy chains of bronze wrapped around it in crisscrossing patterns, their links embedded deep into the rock floor, as if to anchor it in place. On the lid of the sarcophagus, an inscription shimmered faintly in the lantern light, A euro oir lies the burden of the gods. Disturb not the sleeper, lest knowledge awaken hunger. A euro drive. Nadia Karima euro's breath caught in her throat. A euro othis a euro this is it. The core of the tomb. The reason it was sealed. A euro the guardiana euro's shadow Layla clutched her arm, the dark symbols crawling higher toward her neck. A euro o shouldn't a euro t be here, a euro she whispered. Her eyes darted toward the walls, where shadows seemed to move on their own, writhing like serpents. Suddenly, a sound rippled through the chamber a euro, a low hiss, drawn out and hollow, vibrating through the bronze chains. The sarcophagus trembled. The chains strained, groaned, but held. Omar staggered back, his face pale. A euro ida euro's not just a tomb. Ida euro's a prison. A euro the hiss grew louder, rising into a chorus of whispers. Some spoke Greek, some Egyptian, others languages the explorers could not recognize. Each voice repeated the same idea in different tongues. A euro olive, or be written. A euro the temptation. Despite the warnings, Nadia approached the sarcophagus. Her hands trembled, but her eyes burned with obsession. A euro eel my life. A euro she murmured. A euro they studied the library as a story of loss. But what if the greatest loss wasn't a euro its destruction a euro, but what was hidden here? Imagine the knowledge inside a euro, secrets the ancients feared. A euro Omar joined her, his voice feverish. A euro oathis isn't a euro a curse. Ida euro sa test. They sealed it to keep fools away. But we euro not fools. We can handle it. A euro Layla screamed, pointing at the chains. A euro oendel that. A euro the bronze links pulsed faintly, glowing with heat. The sarcophagus shook violently, dust cascading from the ceiling. And Thena euro one of the chains snapped. The awakening the chamber plunged into chaos. The silver veins of the sarcophagus blazed with light, casting the room in a pale glow. The whispers became screams. The lid shifted, inch by inch. A sliver of black mist seeped out, cold as ice, curling across the floor. Wherever it touched, the stone cracked. Nadia froze in place, torn between terror and awe. From the mist, a shape began to form a euro, first a face, featureless and smooth, then eyes like molten silver, unblinking, merciless. The figure towered as it rose, its body shifting between human and serpent, flesh and shadow. Layla collapsed to her knees, clutching her marked arm as the symbols flared with light. She screamed at a euro, and then her voice became layered, as if another spoke through her. A euro oh you have unbound the burden. You are the scribes of its return. A euro the collapse the chains snapped one by one, each sound like a thunderclap. The sarcophagus lid toppled to the floor, shattering into fragments. The figure within fully emerged a euro, a guardian, or perhaps a prisoner, its form impossible to hold in one glance. The ground trembled. The shelves of scrolls collapsed, scattering bronze tubes across the floor. Some burst open, their papyrus catching fire in unnatural flames of silver blue. Omar staggered forward, arms outstretched, shouting above the chaos, A euro oh take me. I will carry your wisdom. A euro the figure turned its silver eyes toward him. In an instant, his body withered, collapsing into ash that scattered across the chamber. The escaped Nadia grabbed Layla, pulling her toward the bronze door. A euro oh have to go a euro, now. A euro but the doorway had narrowed. The chamber itself seemed to shift, the walls closing in. The mist chased them, serpentine tendrils curling around their legs. Layla stumbled, her marked arm glowing brighter. A euro oh it wants me, a euro she sobbed. A euro oh I can feel it inside me. Go, Nadia euro, go. A euro Nadia refused, dragging her forward with every ounce of strength. A euro oh not without you. A euro the guardian a euro's hiss filled the chamber, deafening, a sound of hunger older than history. The ceiling cracked. Chunks of stone rained down. With a final desperate push, Nadia and Layla hurled themselves through the bronze door. The chamber collapsed behind them in a roar of stone and fire. Aftermath. When Nadia awoke, she was lying in the dust of the upper catacombs. The others were gone. Only Layla lay beside her, unconscious but breathing. The bronze door was sealed once more, its runes glowing faintly. The Shadow Tomb had buried itself again. Days later, when Nadia returned to the surface, the world above was unchanged. The sun still shone. The city bustled. Life continued. But in her satchel was her notebook a euro, filled with transcriptions of the fragments, the visions, and the warnings. Enough to prove she had seen the Shadow Tomb. Enough to haunt her forever. Epilogue. Months later, in a quiet library in Cairo, Nadia sat alone, turning through her notebook. Layla had disappeared one night, leaving no trace but a trail of silver dust on the floor. And on the last page of Nadia Euro's notebook, words had appeared that she did not write. A euro's burden is not gone. The scribes remain. Soon the world will be written. A euro she slammed the book shut, her hands trembling. For a moment, she thought she heard it again a euro, the faint hiss of a serpent, carried on the night wind.